had the same anxiety when I went to the exam hall. But there was one rule which I always followed, and that was I knew at the back of my mind that there is around 60-65 questions in CAT. So that goes about like 20 questions in each section. So I always thought that I have to solve in and about 9 to 12 questions only. So for me, leaving 1 or 2 questions in the exam was not a panic button mode. Like it was very normal for me during the exam that I left 3 to 4 questions altogether. It happened to me in quant, where at a stretch I had to leave 5 to 6 questions, and there was nothing to worry about it because I knew that I was anyhow going to do around 10 to 12 questions only out of the 20 or odd so questions given. And so I continued with that strategy. That helped me a lot. I was not at all anxious when I was leaving questions, and I was having no regret at all when I left questions. So that gradually helped me in quant immensely. Like when I was solving questions, I always used to break the entire paper into chunks of 5 questions each. So 5 questions each would give you around like 10 minutes. You had 10 minutes to do 5 questions, and by 5 questions I don't mean that I solved each and every of those 5 questions. By 5 questions I mean I just took a glance of it. I've had a slot 1 for this CAT 2022, and in my first batch of 5 questions I was not able to make even one of it. So I spent around 5 minutes. I looked at those 5 questions, and I knew that I was not going to be able to do those 5 at all. So I added the next 5 minutes of that slot to the next batch of 5 questions, and I cracked those, giving around 3 to 4 minutes, 2 minutes each to each question. And that followed up on other sections as well. For example, in VARC, the passages were very lengthy. It took me around like 6 to 7 minutes to read a passage. VARC section, my trick was that the RC questions are 16 in number and the VA questions are 8. So what I thought was the VA bit was having 3 parajumbles and around 4 questions, like 3 para-summaries and 4 questions of parajumble. So I was not that strong in parajumble, but I was decent enough in para-summary. So I left 5 minutes in my exam for doing only 3 para-summaries out of the 8 VA questions that we had. So like I entirely left out on the parajumble part, and the rest 35 minutes, my main aim was to read only 2 passages, giving 15 to 20 minutes each, and try to do at least 3 to 4 questions or the entire set correct in it. Now, doing an entire passage correct in itself was a very difficult task. So what I did was I read the first passage, and I did only 1 question out of the first like 4 questions given in the first passage. And then I went on to the second. The second was pretty easy. So I did 4, like all 4 of them. And then I saw that my time was running low. So I made a judicious choice. I read the third and fourth passage, first and last paragraph. And then I judged whether the passage was of my level. Like, was I able to, like, would I be able to read in 10 minutes and do at least 1 or 2 questions out of that passage or not? And lucky enough, one of them was medium, one of them was out of my own interest range. Like, we had a passage about dreams and like some ghost like dreams and stuff. So that was pretty interesting. It was like a story. So I read that passage and was able to do around 2 questions in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So doing this, I was able to pull through the 10 question mark that I was speaking earlier. I was able to do around 10 to 11 questions with full accuracy. The same went for maths. I broke maths into chunks of 5 questions each, 10 minutes. I read the questions for first 2-3 minutes, marked what I can do, and straight away put all my effort, like 2 to 3 minutes, on cracking that question. And then that is the best feeling. Like when you solve a quant question, you get the answer and you look at the option and that answer is there. That is how you know that what you've been solving is exactly correct. So that was my way of checking whether my quant answers were coming out to be correct or not. The CAT exam majorly is not about solving the entire paper. It is basically that you solve whatever you can in whatever comfortable time you are having and doing it correct. So for me, it was like simple maths. Like you do 10 questions, you have 40 minutes time, you have 4 minutes for each question in maths. And you won't believe, like literally, I did some of the questions of permutation combination, like word problems. Like I wrote in my rough sheet, like we have 4 children, x1, x2, x3, x4, and then we have to distribute them. I guess we should use this formula. So there is nothing wrong with it. You can take your time in the exam. You can take 4 minutes for a question in case of quant. In case of VARC, you can target only 2 passages. There is nothing wrong if you don't even see the other 2 RCs. And if you focus on only 2 RCs and get those 8 questions right or 6 questions right, and then move on to the 8 questions of VA, wherein you can try to do 2 or 3 parasymbols and get the 3 para summaries correct, that would again pull out around 12 to 13 right in English. And as for LR, I was weak in LR initially. So for LR, I had to practice a lot, and I practiced mostly from the past year papers. Like I saw how IIMs were designing their sets, like what idea was going on behind solving those questions. And looking at those past questions helped a lot. In my slot one, I had one question on tournaments where there were 4 guys and they were playing 8 matches and points were given to each of them. So, the year I am not able to recollect right now, but there was a question that was very similar to this in CAT around 3 to 4 years ago, like around 2015 or 16. So I had done that question and it was sort of familiar to me. So I was able to invest around 25 minutes. It wasn't easy, but you can invest 25 to 30 minutes also and make a single set that is worthy of your time, because usually LR cutoffs are less. And I myself was only able to do 8 questions correct. I mean, I was able to see 8 questions and I was also able to do only 8 questions. But that didn't hamper anyhow, because you have normalizations going on later. And the thing is that you should be basically accurate with whatever you're trying to do in the exam. So that was my D-Day strategy. That is, you fix how many questions you can do confidently, prepare for those questions, go and sit in the exam, do exactly those many questions. If you have time left, you have confidence, then go ahead and attempt more. But try to keep your accuracy above 90%. That is, don't try to solve any question or don't try to take any option where even a single digit doesn't match. Out of temptation, I had given an option 1894, and there was another option that was 1896 or so, something in these lines. So I was tempted, like I was getting 189. I could have done the division by taking 30 seconds more, but I was lazy. So I thought it would be 1894 and it was wrong back then. So you should be beware of these traps, solve the question entirely, get the answer, cross check with the option. So as far as mocks went on, initially I was hopeless while giving my first 1 or 2 mocks. I was not too good in analyzing them, and then I looked at it like from a 2-pronged view. Like I looked at the strong areas too and the weak ones too. It makes sense because for me the strong area was quant. The thing is that if there is a topic you are strong in and you are making mistakes, try to revisit the formulas or any concept that you think would be useful for that thing, and sit down with it for around an hour or so, or 30 minutes. Try to do 2-3 similar questions. For like you can make your own questions. For example, if there is a triangle question and you were not getting it, then change the angles. Try to make a new question out of it and solve. And if there is a section that you're weak in, for example, LR was weak for me, then I kept my weekends free. My strategy was that I used to do quant and VA 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. and Saturday, Sunday, 2 days I used to leave only for LR, entirely LR. So you can allot time suitably. You can give a lot more time and effort to the areas you are weak in. And like if you are not getting, like for my logic was, if I get one question wrong, I would practice 10 more on the same line. So you can do something of that sort. Like if you are getting one LR set wrong from games and tournament, then you try to find another 10, solve those 10. Who can cook any method? You see the solution. You go and talk with your friends, but try to solve those 10 questions. So the ideology is that you're putting in efforts. You're being consistent enough to do 10 more questions of the same kind that you are hating a few days before. So this helped me a lot. And for me, my target always was that I improve in mocks 5 marks at a time. So I started like initially I would be getting around 63 or 62 in mocks, and I gave around 7 to 8. So I gradually thought of increasing one of like around 5 to 6 marks, like doing one question correct at a time. So every mock I tried improving one question, two question, and gradually it reached to a level where it was nearly around 95 to 110. I like initially I was not having the speed to read through these articles. Like I was taking pretty long to read articles. So like I used to open like some news articles. I used to read the Hindu, not the editorial, just plain news articles, small articles around 100 words, whatever was coming in the front page. Or else, if you want, if you can also read like gradually I moved from reading the Hindu like initially front page to like reading Aeon passages. Like you have a site called Aeon essays. They have really big essays. Now you don't want to waste your time reading really big essays for 40 minutes. Time is very crucial. So you can read only the first 3 paragraphs. So like for initial 1 or 2 weeks, I read many passages to bring in a flow of reading and a certain sense of comprehension. For comprehending a passage, there are 2 ways. I can suggest 2 methods. One would be you read a paragraph, and after you finish reading a paragraph, just write the entire paragraph in one sentence. So basically, you will be having 6 to 7 paragraphs in a RC, typical RC in CAT exam. So that would roughly make around 7 to 8 points. And then you can solve, those 7 to 8 points will act as pointers in your mind. So whenever you see a MCQ, you know that this will go around point 1 and 2 ke beech mein. So you jump to the paragraph 1 and 2, and within 30 seconds you point down or you see what idea the question is asking about. You comprehend for 30 seconds more, take a minute or two, and then you look at the options and tick. Secondly, apart from comprehending by making points, the second method is pretty simple. That is, you straightforward read the entire passage. You read it by putting in some effort and time, and then you move on to the questions, and again you revert back to the passage. Now this initially took a lot of time for me, but provided better comprehension. So I sort of used 50-50 between these. Like if the passage would be easy, I'd not make points from each paragraph. If it will be very tough and there was no other way I have to do that passage, then I'll sit down, devote 15 minutes, read the entire passage. Now the call has to be taken by you. Like you have to glance through the 4 passages. The best way to check whether a passage can be done or cannot be done is you have to see the first and the last paragraph and ask yourself, am I comfortable with it or not? Like I was from engineering, so any passage that came from science or discovery or innovation was pretty easy for me. Those that took a turn into literature, political philosophy were a slightly tougher nuts. So for them, I used to read paragraph wise and I used to write 1 or 2 lines for each paragraph. And for the science ones, I used to do a plain reading. And as it was interesting for me, I used to gradually remember and then move on to the questions. As for RC questions, you can divide RC questions into 5 types. Like there are around 4 to 5 types. One RC question would be the except this one. Like there will be 4 options. 3 of them would be right, 1 would be wrong, or 3 would be wrong and 1 would be right. Those are the except one questions. Secondly, you can have pretty direct questions which are like they'll just ask you a very direct question in indirect way. For example, we had a passage related to dreams. Most of the questions seem to be indirectly framed. The third type of questions could be the reasoning like argument based, like you provide support to a particular statement or you draw parallels to any statement from the passage. Now, these questions are like usually tough, but for these, the comprehension needs to be improved upon. So you need to read more passages, improve your comprehension. Once you reach a certain level of comprehension, it will be pretty easy for you to draw parallels for that situation. And the fourth and fifth type of questions are inference based, which the CAT usually likes. Those are indirect questions. The inference based questions are basically where they'll be telling you to get a data out of something given directly in the passage. For example, like these questions are not pretty direct. They are more of drawing conclusions from something already provided in the passage. So, if you can cover all these five categories of RC questions while you're reading or analyzing any news article, you can jot down, you can make para summaries whenever you read a RC. All this might help you in improving your speed and comprehension, and eventually you might be able to solve 2 or 3 questions correctly in every passage, taking around 10 to 12 minutes.